Hello everyone. So I welcome you to the IELTS and English webinar. Myself, Dr. Dolly Setia, and we have our English language experts who have been training the aspirants for French tweets for various examinations for the purpose of immigration and academic. So today in this IELTS and English webinar, we have with us Ms. Rachel White and Ms. Shamini Jina. So I would request Ms. Shamini to begin with the introduction, and then Rachel, you can take over.
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Shamini. I'm an IELTS expert, and I'll be starting this webinar with the basics of the IELTS exam. So what is the IELTS exam? The IELTS exam is an international English language testing system. This system is actually managed by various groups, including the British Council and Cambridge Assessment English, right? Now, why do we do the IELTS? The IELTS helps you to migrate to other countries, and it helps if you need to enter an English-speaking university. It helps with, it tests your language competency, and it assesses you as an English speaker. These tests are accepted by numerous universities and by numerous countries. So it's essential if you're going to an English-speaking country that you do the IELTS. It is also a credible way of assessing your English competency, right? Now we have different countries that are going to accept the IELTS exams: the USA, UK, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and even Ireland. Different universities accept the IELTS exam, but each of these universities will have its own benchmark according to what you are going to study at that university. There are different companies also which have their own benchmark and require IELTS if you move to those English-speaking companies. Now, there are two types of IELTS exams. We have the academic and we have the general. Now, the purpose of the academic exam is to, if you are attending an English-speaking university, right? It tests 4 parts of the English language, which is reading, writing, listening, and speaking. These tests are more high level, as it is an academic test, and they might be more technical and academically inclined. They are more for people who are going to study an undergraduate something for undergraduates, right? Then we have the general test. The general test is for the purpose of immigrating to another country and to start another country or to start working in another country. These tests consist of 4 parts again: the reading, the writing, the listening, and the speaking. They are more easier, and they deal with situations in normal day life. You would be asking, they would be testing you on your professional level and also your social level. So these are the 2 types of the IELTS exam. According to what is your purpose of writing the IELTS, you can choose whether you are going to do the academic or whether you are going to do the general test. The general test is easier, but as I said, it's more for migration purposes or to work in another country. If you are going there solely on academic purposes, I would suggest that you do the academic IELTS academic. Thank you.
Shamini, would you just introduce yourself as well a little bit?
Okay, my name is Shamini. I'm an IELTS tutor. I have been doing this for some time. My strength in IELTS is helping with speaking and writing. I know different strategies on on how to help students achieve the band score that they need. And I like working with students one on one and to just fine tune them to help them help them in IELTS. I know it's very overwhelming, and I'm there. I'm just to assist students to get the band score that they require, just to make their life a bit easier, and just to approach it in a different way. Thanks.
Thank you so much. So, Miss Rachel, would you continue with the rest of the presentation?
Sure, Dolly. Thank you so much. Thank you, Shamini, for that wonderful introduction to this webinar. I would like to start by introducing myself. So, as you can see, my name is Rachel. So, I work out of India, and I'm a certified trainer for exams like IELTS, PT, and CELPIP, which are other English proficiency exams. And I have over 8 years of experience in this field, and I've coached over 3,000 odd students. And I expertise in both taking one-on-one classes, customized trainings, and conducting batches of, up to 70 to 80 students. So, okay, thank you, Dolly, once again. And I think I will start now.
Thank you so much.
Just one moment. I would like to present from my end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
All right. So as we've already covered the bits where, we have two types of IELTS exams, which is academic and general. Now, what we're going to do right now is look into the test structure, all right? So basically, what are the different modules that, you have to, look into while preparing for the exam, all right? Before that, I'm not sure if everybody's aware here, but you can attempt the exam the traditional way, which is the pen and paper kind of exam, or you could also do it on a computer. All right, there are two modes of attempting the exam now. So in terms of the test structure, so there are a lot of students who ask me which one is better. Should I go ahead with the paper-based test or the computer-based test, right? So it's a valid question, but again, there's no difference between the test structure, all right? The contents, the assessment criteria, everything remain the same. What changes is the way you're giving the exam, right? So let's consider the writing module, all right? You're supposed to write quite a lot here. So in the writing module, you would probably be writing with a pen on paper. Whereas for the computer-based test, you will have to type out the answers. So if you are comfortable with a pen and paper kind of test, which has always been the traditional way of writing an exam, you could go ahead with a pen and paper kind of test. On the other hand, if you are a tech-savvy person, if you're comfortable typing, your typing speed, and most importantly, your typing accuracy is good, then you can go ahead with the the computer-based test. All right, there is no major difference in terms of the content or the assessment criteria for the exam when you talk about paper-based or computer-based test. There is a slight difference in terms of the duration, okay, of each module. So let me explain that. So starting off, see, we have 4 modules or 4 essential skills that are tested, all right? So you have listening, reading, writing, and speaking. These are the 4 essential skills that are required to communicate efficiently in any given language, whether it is English, whether it is Hindi, whether it is French, German, anything, right? So when are you considered to be a proficient speaker? When you are good with all the 4 essential skills, which are namely listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And if you think about it, what is the first skill that you require to learn any language? Think about it for a second. As a child, how did you learn a language? You learned it with a listening skill, right? So that comes first, all right? So if you think about the scoring pattern as well, the requirements from different universities or companies, most of them expect a higher score in listening. The reason because that is the first skill you require to understand or communicate well in any given language, all right? So let's further look into the duration. So the listening test is for 30 minutes. Okay, 30 minutes. Just a minute. We change this. Yeah. So the listening test is for 30 minutes. Now, this is for the computer-based test. All right. In the paper-based test, you get 30 minutes plus 10 additional minutes. Now, I'll explain this to you in a bit. All right. Let's move on further. The listening test is further divided into 4 sections. Okay, 4 sections. Now, what exactly is expected out of you during these 4 sections? So, in these 4 sections, you will be listening to different audios, different recordings, different conversations. And each of these sections follow certain or a typical kind of audio that is played. For example, in section 1, you would be listening to two people talking, a conversation between two people. And that would be typically based on a daily life situation. Um, for example, let's say a student is calling the university to inquire about some courses that they're interested in, right? So what kind of information is exchanged? The name of the course, the duration of the course, the cost, probably the lecturer, the person is going to impart the training or the lecture. So various information are exchanged between the student and the person who's providing their information, right? So that is what you would have to understand. That's called factual information. So section 1 of the listening module will test your ability to understand factual information. So similarly, like this, the remaining 3 sections as well have some typical kind of content that you'll be listening to, typical kind of conversations that you'll be listening to, based on which you are expected to answer 10 questions each for each of the sections, right? So section 1 will have 10 questions, section 2 will have 10 questions, and similar thing is followed for 3 and 4. So in total, you are answering a set of 40 questions. Fine? So you're answering a set of 40 questions. Now, another part you should be aware about is what is the accent that you will be listening to, right? What is the accent? Now, the accent could be an American accent, it could be a British accent, it could be a Canadian accent, all right? So various accents, you should be prepared to listen to different types of accents. Fine? Yes. So that's about the listening module. Now, moving back to the time that I mentioned, okay? So these 3 sections will be played across the duration of 30 minutes. Fine? Now consider you're writing the computer-based test. So what's happening in the computer-based test? While you're listening to the audio, the questions are reflecting on your screen and you need to type out the answers. All right, that's happening for the computer-based test. On the other hand, for the paper-based test, you'll get a question booklet with 40 questions in it, okay? And you'll get a separate answer sheet. So you have your question booklet, okay? And you have a separate answer sheet. So while you're listening to the audio, you're supposed to write your answers on the question booklet. Why? Because you have no control on this audio, all right? The audio being played. You cannot pause the audio. You cannot replay the audio. So what, the audio start playing at section 1, they end directly at section 4. Of course, they would give you, a minute, a couple of seconds to a minute in between the sections. But otherwise, you are not allowed to pause the audio. So you understand what's happening here? You're multitasking. You're listening to the audio, you're reading the questions, and you're writing down the answers at the same time. Okay? Now, the word count for the answers would just be about 1 to 3 words. Short answers, no lengthy answers. But again, furnishing them directly into the answer sheet can be a little challenging. So you are recommended or you are advised to, write down your answers on the question booklet. Once the audios are complete, once the 4 sections are done, then you will get 10 additional minutes. And you are supposed to use the 10 minutes to transfer your answers from the question booklet to the answer sheet, to the final answer sheet. All right? That is the reason in the paper-based test, you get that 10 additional minutes. Otherwise, the content, like I said, the content, the question types, everything, assessment criteria, everything else remain the same when it comes to paper-based and computer-based tests. All right, so this is about the listening module. I think I've covered most of the points. If you'll have any queries with respect to the listening module, please make a note. We will allow you all to ask questions after the session. Okay. Now, moving on to the reading module. Okay. So the reading module is for 60 minutes. And there is no difference between the paper-based or the computer-based test. You don't get 10 additional minutes here. Okay. So if you're attempting the paper-based test, you have to complete the test and furnish the final answer sheet within the time frame of 60 minutes. On the other hand, if you are attempting the computer-based test, you have to type all the answers on the screen. Okay. Now, the reading module is divided into 3 sections. Okay, 3 sections. Let me just take a step back. Talking about the general and academic, I'm sure we have a mixed bunch of students here who are aspiring to write the general and the academic. So, what is the difference, okay, in terms of these modules? So, reading and writing would be different, a little different for the general and the academic students, okay? Whereas listening and speaking remain the same. There's no difference for general and academic students when it comes to the test pattern or the test content of listening and reading. But yes, there is a slight difference when we talk about reading and writing. So I'll explain that now as we are, talking about reading. So there are 3 sections in both general and academic. All right. Now, the difference for the reading module with respect to general and academic is the contents that you read. Okay. So for the academic students, you have 3 long passages. 3 passages. Okay. So 3 different articles for 3 sections. And what are you expected to do here? You're expected to read the passage, okay? And based on the passage, they're going to ask you a couple of questions, a set of questions. You need to write down the answers. Okay, so this is like comprehension. So you're reading something, you have some questions asked related to what you're reading, and you have to write down the answers. Now, these 3 passages that you get, the topics or the subjects would be a little leaning towards the academic side. So you could get something on, say, technology, on education, on the environment. Okay, so different topics would be picked. On the other hand, for the general students, we still have 3 different sections, but in section 1, you would have 2 to 3 short contents. Okay, so for the general students, the first part is related to something you would read on a daily basis, like an advertisement or a newspaper article or a notice, right? So 2 to 3 such contents would be there, and such passages or text would be there. And the total number of questions that you would answer is 30 questions, about 30 to 40 questions. Okay, that's section 1, 2 to 3 questions, 2 to 3 passages, and the content would be related to something you read on a daily basis. Now, the second section for the general students is to work-related content. Okay, now this could be a company policy, it could be a job description, or it could be simply an article written about, some policies or work ethics, right? Something related to work. Here again, they'll ask you about 13 questions. The last part, you will have one long text, which is similar to one of the academic passages. And this would be leaning a little towards the academic side. And again, it could be on any given topic: literature, archaeology, education, technology, okay? Any topic could be here, all right? And here you would get about 14 questions. All right, so this is what is for the general students. And for the academic, it's just simply 3 long passages for all 3 sections. Yes, the content is a little difficult. The vocabulary used is a little more complex as compared to the general students. So any which ways, for either test that you are writing, the total number of questions that you have to answer is 40, okay? 40 questions, similar to the listening module. And yeah, so the type of questions also, would vary both for listening and reading. You have different types of questions. Now, say, for example, let's consider the listening module, okay? Now you have 10 questions in one section, right? So out of these 10 questions, maybe 5 questions would be fill in the blank kind of questions, and probably the other 5 would be multiple choice kind of questions, MCQs. Okay, so it's a mix of different types of questions that you would get for both listening and reading. However, similar to listening, even in reading, the word count for your answers would be just about 1 to 3 words. No lengthy answers have to be written here. All right, so that's about the reading module. Yes, more or less I've covered most of it. One aspect I would like to talk about here is uh, compared to the listening module, in the reading module, there is one important factor that you need to work on. Okay. Now, yes, you need to understand the test structure. You need to have good reading skills. You need to understand the different types of questions. What are the techniques that you can use to answer these questions? But most importantly, you need to work on your time management skills. Okay, time management skills. Why? Okay, the reason is, let's talk about listening now. For listening, like I said, you do not have control on the audio, correct? You cannot pause it, you cannot replay it. So, whether you're ready or not, whether you like it or not, you will complete all the 40 questions, right? You will reach until the end. However, the reading module, you have 60 minutes. What you do in those 60 minutes is up to you. How you manage the time is up to you. Okay, so talking about out of experience, I've seen students who are really good with the language and, they have practiced well, they've understood the techniques well, but if they fail to manage their time, towards the end, they end up reading about 8 to 10 questions. Okay, so while you train with me, apart from teaching you the tips and strategies and the techniques, I will also be focusing on time management, especially when it comes to the reading module. All right, so we have 3 sections. How do we divide our time among these three sections? Okay, and again, keeping in mind that now see all these modules, listening, reading, writing, speaking, they are divided in sections. Okay, 2, 3, and 4 sections. And all these sections are in the order of difficulty. So section 1 is the most easiest one. Section 4 or 3 will be the most difficult one. So keeping that in mind, we have to ensure that we dedicate, the right amount of time for each section. Okay, that will be taught to you further when you're enrolled for the training. Yes, I think I've covered everything in reading. If you have any questions, please make a note of it right now, and I will address them once we complete. Okay. Fine. Moving on to the writing module. Now, the writing module, again, you get 60 minutes here, all right? And there are 2 sections in the writing module. Fine. Now, again, it's a little different for the academic and the general students. For the academic students, the first task is a summary writing task. Okay, a summary writing task. So, what are you expected to do here? Now, they would give you a visual or a diagram. Say, for example, the population of men and women from the year 2000 to 2020 in, say, the United States of America. Okay, so there's a graph. So you have all the statistics on the graph, you have the information, you need to analyze the information, and you need to summarize this in a minimum of 150 words. All right, that's task 1 for the academic students. Task 2 is an essay writing task. Okay, so you could get a question like, talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the internet. And over here, you need to generate some ideas, okay, and you need to draft the essay of a minimum of 250 words. Okay, that's for the academic students. Word count is very important. They will give you clear instructions of how many words you need to write in each of the tasks. Okay, fine. Now for the general students, the first task is a letter writing task. All right, so they'll give you a situation. Like say, for example, you have rented an apartment and you're facing some problems with the apartment. So they would probably say something like, write a letter to the owner complaining about the problems you have in the house. Okay. So here again, they will give you some points to cover in the letter. So you have to read the question carefully, maybe generate a couple of ideas to cover in the letter. And again, the word count is a minimum of 150 words. Okay, that's a letter writing task. The second task is similar to the academic students. It's an essay writing task, and again, here you're expected to write 250 words. Okay, so that's about the writing module. Now, talking about the computer-based or the paper-based test, you get 60 minutes for both. All right. The difference would lie in terms of, again, like I mentioned earlier, in typing or writing. Right. So if you're comfortable writing, you can go ahead with the paper-based test. If you're comfortable typing, you can go ahead with the computer-based test. And one important thing you should be careful about when it comes to writing with respect to the computer-based test is typographical mistakes. Yes. So say, for example, you're good with your spellings. Okay. And when you're writing with a pen or a pencil, you ensure you write the correct spelling. Correct. But again, if you're typing, okay, and if you know the spellings, but you may tend to make some typographical mistakes there. So that's the reason I said it's not about the typing speed, not completely about the typing speed, but the typing accuracy as well. Okay, you have to ensure that. And another another aspect to consider when we talk about computer-based tests is nowadays most of the applications, most of the electronic devices that we use, whether it's a laptop or a smartphone, we have a lot of autocorrect. Right, there's a lot of spell check, that supports us, right well. Unfortunately, in this exam, you do not have that. Right, so you have to ensure that your spellings are correct um, and again, no using short forms, right? Like instead of writing YU, don't end up writing you, okay? So yeah, there's a couple of things you need to keep in mind when you consider, whether to write the paper-based or the computer-based test when it comes to the writing module. Fine. So I think, yeah, I've covered most of the points here with respect to all the four modules. And yes. Okay, so I've covered everything on one slide. I'm sorry about that. But yes, any questions? Any questions related to any of the four modules? Dolly, would this be the right time to allow them to ask questions?
Thank you so much, Rachel. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation, Rachel. So now we have with us Miss Vanshika, supervisor, French tweets. She is going to give some little briefing about French tweets, and then we can take up the questions. And even I have some questions which are quite generally asked by the students cross countries, and we'll be speaking about those. To Shamini, how does one begin the practice for the exam?
Okay, how does one start with practice? The first thing I would do is I would definitely try a practice test online, and I would gauge how I do on the practice test. I would look at what are my strengths. I would look at are my weaknesses. Maybe you are good at writing, but listening you are not doing well. So I would then try and focus more on listening. But that is how I would start. I would definitely look for a practice test, identify your test strengths and weaknesses, get enough information about the test as possible. So if you are doing academic, know the format of the test, know what is required in each question, in each section, and get to know the test very, very well, right? Understand the band scores that you need. If you are going to go to university and do an undergrad study, then know what band score you are looking for and aim for those band scores that you are looking for. And then I would also want you to uh, do more research about the IELTS exam. And I think that is a good way to start, but you would have to work almost every day on this, and you would have to know the test very, very well. Thanks.
Thank you, Shamini, for the wonderful insight that you've given us. Vanshika,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So I would just like to tell everybody about French Tweets. So French Tweets Private Limited is a global edtech company, and we provide live online classes for language learning and language-related exams for diverse languages, such as French, English, Spanish, and Italian. And with extreme research and preparatory courses planned for all the levels for all the C1 and A1 to C2 as well. Specific language exams such as TEF, TCF Canada, TEFAC, DELF, TALF were fabricated and shared throughout. The classes are conducted globally. Along with French, we have Spanish and Italian. And with the range of learners diversifying, the significance was also specified to other exams. For Spanish, Delhi and Celi. For Italian, Celi and Sils. And amongst this diversification, French Tweets also has been conducting classes with its experts for widely accepted English language exams like IELTS, CELPIP, TOEFL, PTE, OET, CAEL, UKVI, and TOEFL IBT test, all the new included tests as well. So French Tweets provides teaching lessons inclusive of all levels from beginners to advanced and extremely informative tips for various language exams. It has completed its 3 years in 2023 with 10,000 plus global learners, and it continues to impact lives positively. And we are very glad to have you all with us in this seminar with our experts, Ms. Rachel Wright and Ms. Shamini Jina. And we hope you have noted all the important questions that you have, because we will be proceeding with some of the globally asked questions from different platforms as well. So if we can proceed with the question slide.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Vanchika. So
Yes.
I'm just sharing the screen for the questions that we have prepared. So just give me a moment.
All right, proceeding with these questions. Yeah. I would like to ask Ms. Rachel, what band score should one aim for in the exam? If you could tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So, see, the band score that you want to aim for would be different depending on your requirement. Okay. Again, like you can write this exam if you want to, if you're aspiring to study abroad or work abroad. Now, depending on the university that you're applying for, or the organization that you're going to join, the expectation would be different. But again, on an average, you're expected to get at least 6 and above. Okay, so I hope people are aware that you get a score from 0 to 9, 0 being the least, 9 being the highest, right? So again, like I said, an average score is 6 and above. Some universities expect you to get, 8 and above as well. So that depends on which university you're applying for or which organization you're joining.
Thank you so much for answering that for us. Now I'd like to ask Ms. Shamini, how is IELTS beneficial for students and working professionals across the globe?
Okay, for firstly, it does help with your immigration requirements. If you are going to a native English speaking country, it's going to help you find employment. Certain organizations, companies are going to ask for your IELTS score, and many universities are definitely going to ask for your IELTS score before you start in the university. So it is going to be beneficial for you both as a student and if you are going to work in another country professionally.
Okay, thank you so much for answering that. Next question is, how is preparing with a teacher different from self-preparation? Ms. Rachel, if you could answer that, thank you.
Yes, sure. So that's a very good question, and a lot of students, think whether we should go ahead and approach an expert to prepare for this exam, or can we do it ourselves? Because again, there is a lot of material available online. There are a lot of videos available. Some good experts, from different countries, from different institutes, etc. There are a couple of things you need to keep in mind. Okay, and again, talking out of experience, No matter how good you are with the language, okay, you have to understand what the test structure is. Okay, that's number one. Now, let's consider listening and reading. Okay, like I said, earlier, you have 40 questions in each. Now, how do you get a band score for listening? You get a band score, listening or reading. It depends on the number of correct answers. Fine? That's okay. Now, again, yes, there are tips and strategies that you can refer to online. But when it comes to speaking and writing, okay, a lot of students, they don't understand how they're getting scored, and that is where they fail to get the score that they require. So this information can be provided only by an expert. All right, so what are the parameters you're going to get scored on with respect to speaking or with respect to writing? And again, there is information available online, but how do you address those parameters is very important. Okay, and getting personal feedback is also very important. Like, say, for example, you are practicing some essay writing skills, right? So for and you try to incorporate them while you're writing the essay. But again, there are small things like in terms of grammar. What are the mistakes are you making in grammar? Or in terms of vocabulary, are you using good vocabulary good enough to attain a 7 or 8 band in writing? So these things can be only explained to you by an expert. And I don't know if you have friends or family who've written the test already. You will notice that maybe they have got a good score in their listening or reading, but the writing score is always low, or the speaking score is always low, right? Why? Because they probably are not aware how you get scored in these modules. Okay, so that's how it is different. You can definitely self-prepare, but at any point, if you feel that you are unaware about how to get at 7, how to get at 8 in certain modules, it's always good to take help, from an expert. Yes.
Yeah, so the next question is for expert Shamini. How many hours should one dedicate minimum to the preparation of the tutor?
Okay, so definitely you should be working on this prior to the month that you are going for the exam. You should be definitely putting 3 to 4 hours a day. There are 4 modules. I would dedicate 1 hour per section, and I think you should be well prepared by then. You should be working with your feedback that you receive from your experts, and this is hard work. So you have to dedicate your hours every day, 3 to 4 before the month of your test.
Okay.
Hmm.
Next question is, what are the different parts of the speaking module? If expert Rachel could brief us about that again.
Sure. And I think this is one module I kind of missed when I was explaining the test structure. So good that we have this question on here. So yes, the speaking module has 3 parts. All right, you have 3 parts in the speaking module. The first part is wherein you'll be asked some general questions about yourself. Like the topics could be related to family, friends, your hobbies, your hometown, or even something as simple as what colors do you like, what kind of music do you like. So they're pretty simple questions about yourself. All right, so the examiner would spend about 4 to 5 minutes asking you these questions in part one. Okay, and yes, the speaking test is going to be a face-to-face interview with the examiner, whether you're attempting the computer-based or the paper-based test. So that's the first part. The second part, they will give you a topic. Okay, the topic could be something like talk about a book that you read. Okay, and they'll give you some preparation time, and then you're expected to speak on that topic for 2 minutes. And the third part is a discussion topic round. So whatever you speak in part two, say for example about the book that you read, say you talk about a book that you read related to crime. Okay, so the examiner will pick 2 topics from what you've spoken about, say reading and crime, and ask you further questions about it in part three. Okay, so these are 3 different modules in part three.
Thank you for answering that. I'm grateful for the answer, and I'm sure it will help all our viewers in their attempt. Next question is, how to perfect your accent? Sorry, yeah, how to perfect your accent and sentence formation? What are some exam-related strategies? If you could share, expert Shamini, that would be great.
Okay, how to perfect your accent, and sentence formation. The first thing is you should be practicing your grammar, increase your vocabulary, and read and try and structure your answers. Um, that's how you would definitely improve your sentence formation. And grammar is important, so you should know the rules of the English language and you should be applying them to your speaking. So that's why speaking and getting a expert to help you with speaking really helps. That's why you need a partner for speaking and to help build that conversation and to help increase your vocabulary. So that is how you could improve your sentence formation.
That was really helpful. Thank you for answering. Next question that we have is on the screen. Next question. Yeah. Why is having a speaking partner important, or what are the different ways to practice your speaking? Expert Rachel, if you could answer that.
Sure. Well, yes, having a speaking partner is definitely beneficial. Okay, because how would you improve your speaking? It's not just by reading the strategies or reading the type of questions, correct? It's important that you practice it and on a daily basis. Okay, because so let me tell you something. However you speak today, okay, the proficiency level that you have today. Now you have been learning or speaking from decades together, correct? Whether it is your fluency or the vocabulary that you use. Now, you have a limited time frame, a couple of months to prepare for the exam. So practically speaking, you can't really worry too much about, oh, my vocabulary is not that great. I think I should, uh, list down some 100 good words and try and use it. It does not work like that. All right. You have to have a very practical approach when it comes to improving your speaking skills or your writing skills. So talking specifically about speaking, the best practice is to speak in English on a daily basis. I understand for a couple of you all it could be a little difficult. Probably, you live in an environment or work in a place where people don't communicate in English very often. But you have to take that extra effort of ensuring you're speaking regularly. Okay. And if you get a speaking partner, nothing like it. You could practice together, and especially questions related to the IELTS test pattern can be practiced with a speaking partner. Again, that partner may not be an expert, in English. Maybe that partner is somebody who's preparing along with you with the exam. But the whole idea about getting comfortable answering this type of questions increases your confidence and your fluency level. Definitely, the other aspects like grammar or vocabulary, that feedback would definitely can be given only by an expert. Now, different ways of practicing for speaking. Now, this is one way of doing it. You get somebody who's preparing for the exam along with you, and your practice maybe not on a daily basis, but every alternate day you could spend about 10 to 15 minutes talking to each other and asking each other questions. The other good way of preparing for speaking is by recording yourself. Okay, so you take a list of questions, you answer them. While you answer, you record your answer and listen to yourself again. Okay, listen to yourself again. There are at least 40% of the mistakes that you will identify yourself. Okay, so that is one good way of practicing your speaking. Hmm. And yes, there are other things you should do. You must listen to different mock tests that were conducted previously, see how people are answering. Okay, but one advice I would like to give everybody is that when you refer to any material online, okay, whether it is the writing samples or speaking samples, always refer to them with an idea to understand, to learn different ideas of what they're talking about and vocabulary. All right. But when it comes to the structure and the way you answer your questions, okay, please listen to the expert that you're taking advice from. All right, because there are many strategies, there are many structures available online, and that confuses a lot of students. It will create a lot of confusion. So, in order to avoid that, when you refer to any material online, please refer them, keeping in mind that you are learning, generating some ideas, okay, seeing what they're talking about or writing about, and with respect to vocabulary. Okay, the rest, the structure, everything should be, you should approach an expert.
Thank you for answering. Next question is, how does one improve their reading speed for the test? Expert Shamini, if you could take upon this question. Thank you.
Okay, I would start with improving your vocabulary, and that would speed up your comprehension skills. And then I would do a lot of practice tests and see where you are at according to practice tests. Each after obviously practice tests, there should be improvement, learning upon your mistakes that you've done before, and that would be the strategy to improve your reading. Um, I think, yeah, I think that would help. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question for expert Rachel. What are some of the most repeated topics across all 4 modules in the test?
Okay, good question. Well, talking about the 4 modules, let's consider listening first. So when I explained about listening, like I said, there are 4 sections, and each section has a typical kind of audio that is played. Okay. Now, 1 and 2, section 1 and 2 for listening, it's pretty general related to your daily life situations. But again, with respect to section 3 and 4, it will be a little leaning towards the academic side. All right. I'll get back to the topics a little later. Okay. So that's the listening bit of it. Now, talking about reading again, like for academic students, like I said, you'll have a lot of academic topics. Whereas for general students, section 1 and 2 are again related to something that you would read on a daily basis or work related. The last part is where you would have to think about, okay, what topic I may get. Then when it comes to writing, you should be worried about in terms of the topics. You should be worried about it with respect to the essay writing. So what topic could I get with respect to essay writing? Okay, and with respect to the speaking module, again the first part is pretty general about your family, friends, etc. Here you could probably be a little concerned about what topic I could get from a cue card, which is the part 2 where I need to speak for 2 minutes continuously. And again, that is related to part 3. All right. So talking about, across all the 4 modules, there are some topics that repetitively come. There are, I could say it would be a list of about 10 topics, okay, around 10 topics. So you could get something on technology, you could get something on literature, you could get something on education, the environment, okay, family, education, right? So these are the different topics, common topics that you could get across the 4 modules. All right. And one advice I can give you is, when you'll start training with us, you will be given a list of these common topics with respect to each module. You'll need to identify your areas of weakness. Okay. Like say, for example, maybe you'll have good knowledge about the education field or the technology field. Okay, maybe you're weak in terms of literature, or maybe when we talk about the environment, right? Maybe those are your weak areas. So identify that, okay, and start reading on those topics so that you'll start generating ideas and plus learn vocabularies related to those topics. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was really helpful. Next question that we have for expert Shamini. What are the different word counts when it comes to writing section?
Okay, so for writing section, task 1 is 170 to 190 words, and task 2 is about 270 to 290 words. I do not think they would penalize you if you go slightly over the word count, but it's not a good idea to go under the word count. So that's basically what you need, the amount of words you need to write for each task.
All right. I hope everyone is keeping a record of the questions that are being answered because the answers are really helpful. Next question we have for expert Rachel. How to book for the test that one is applying for?
Okay. So you need to book the test on the official site. Okay, so there's specifically 2 bodies that conduct the test. One is IDP and one is British Council. Okay. However, if there are students here who are from India, in India right now we have only IDP, where you can go and book the test slot. Now we don't have British Council anymore here. So you need to go online and register for the exam. So they have different options like what type of test you want to write, what's your preferred date, okay, And yes, to book a test, you need a valid passport. That's very important. When you have to book your test.
Thank you for answering. Next question that we have for expert Shamini. How long after the exam till you receive the results?
I think it would be anyway after 2 days, 3 days that you would receive. Remember that you can ask for remark, and in that you might have to wait a few longer days if you are asking for a remark. But generally, after two days or between 2 and 5 days, you should receive some sort of feedback on your results.
Well noted. Next question for expert Rachel. How should one prepare for IELTS in a way to get band score 8?
Okay. Well, good question. Okay. How do you get a band 8 in IELTS? Okay, so first thing is you need to keep at least, I would say, 6 to 8 weeks on an average, okay, before your test date. That's your preparation time. Um, Understand the test structure. The second thing is understand the test structure. What is expected from all the 4 modules is extremely important. Because once you understand the test structure, what's going to happen is you will have an idea about your areas of weakness. Okay. Now, say for example, like I told you something about listening. Like you cannot listen to the audio again. You can't pause or replay the audio. So there are many tests available online. Okay, free mock tests available. So what I recommend is once you understand the test structure, go ahead and attempt this test. All right. See how comfortable you are in answering the questions. It's not necessary for you to focus, the techniques or strategies at this point in time, but just understanding how conveniently you're able to attempt the exam. Okay, in terms of the question types or the content that's available, will give you an idea of where you stand right now. And it is a very good idea to approach an expert to understand what's your current proficiency level. Like, say, for example, you are at a level 7 right now. Okay, so you just need to get one band better, right? So the duration for your preparation would obviously be a little lesser compared to somebody who's at the band 5 right now. Correct? Like people who are at a band 5 probably need a little more attention or corrections in terms of grammar. They need to prepare the grammar, the foundation has to be made strong, and then we can go ahead with the IELTS structure. So you need to understand what proficiency level you are at right now. Okay, so first thing, like I said, keep at least 5 to 8 weeks in hand to prepare for the exam. Okay, second thing is understand the test structure, attempt some mock tests that are available online, identify your areas of weakness, and it's good to do that with an expert. All right, and then decide how you want to go forward. And for most students, we help them with a study plan for the entire duration that they are with us. So that's how we aim to get a band 7 or an 8 in the exam.
Thank you for answering. Another way to get band score is prepare with a team of experts because they're clearly well experienced and certified. Okay, next question is for expert Shamini. What are the best books and online sites to prepare for?
Okay, so I would go for the best books. Anything by the British Council and anything by Cambridge, I think, is a good start. In websites, there are many. There are some which are just, according to me, spam. So I would be very careful on what I use. I would actually consult maybe an expert first and look for guidance from them because some of them are confusing. Some of them would just lead you maybe the wrong way, and you would be more confused than actually going in the right direction. You wouldn't know where to start. So look at a book first and speak to your expert one on one to find out which site is more worthwhile than the others. I wouldn't just dive into any YouTube site or any site that's online and just start looking at it. It's going to definitely confuse you. Okay,
Thank you
thanks.
for answering. Yes. Next question for expert Rachel. Which test is easiest, IELTS or CELPIP or PTE or TOEFL? This is the most
Okay.
asked questions by our learners. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. All right. Again, good question. Okay, so IELTS, CELPIP, PT, or TOEFL. All right. So one thing you should be aware about is IELTS is accepted in most universities across the globe, right? Most universities and organizations, right? CELPIP is specifically for Canada. Okay, so if you're applying for a job or a university in Canada, you can go ahead with CELPIP. TTE, on the other hand, is specifically for Australia. Recently, they have introduced a PTE test which is accepted globally, but I'm not sure how far, I mean, how many countries is it available at the moment. But PT is mostly for Australia. Okay, so TOEFL again is accepted in the US. Now, which one is the easiest? Okay, now all of these are English proficiency exams. Okay, it is a valid question, but that is something that I think you should not be too worried about because all of these four exams, they focus on the four essential skills, which are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And all of these scores that you get, okay, the scores are a little different. Like IELTS is from 0 to 9, CELPIP is up to 12, PT again, the highest is 90, and so on. But again, all of these scores are finally converted to a CLB score. All right. So that is between 0 to 10. Okay. So they convert it to a CLB score finally, end of the day. So you need to focus on that. Now, if you are expecting a CLB 10, you need an 8.5 in, your IELTS. That way. Okay. But if you really want to consider in terms of which test should I attend, what is good for me, that would depend on your skills. Everybody's different, right? So the test pattern is slightly different for each of these exams. So learn that, okay, try and figure out or understand what are these different test structures and what would be more convenient for you. Like say, for example, again, talking about listening. In IELTS, the listening test is for 30 minutes. In CELPIP, it's for about, an hour. Hmm? So if you feel it's too taxing for you to constantly listening to audios, if you feel that is the area that, you are lacking in, then maybe giving a 30-minute test would be far better than giving a 1 hour test. But again, everything has its own pros and cons. Keeping that in mind, also see, okay, I'm okay with giving a listening for CELPIP. What about the other tests? What about the other modules? The reading or the writing or the speaking? Is that easier for me if I'm giving the CELPIP test? It depends. So the main thing you need to keep in mind is the test structure, the type of questions, and the duration of each module. Keep that in mind and understand what's convenient for you. Then you could decide which test you want to go ahead with. But in terms of the difficulty level, or the content that is available, I think it will be pretty much similar across all the four different types of tests.
Thank you for that detailed answer. Next question that we move on is how should one practice preparation at home? Expert Shamini, if you could answer that.
Okay, so the first thing that I would do is I would focus on my reading, and with social media, I would definitely start reading little stories that people post on Instagram, little stories that they post on Twitter. I would start reading short articles on the new in the online, written by the New York Times, Al Jazeera. I would start reading those articles. I would listen to different accents, maybe different radio stations, right? To listen to different accents. If you're watching movies, I would suggest that you put on the subtitles so then you can see exactly what is being spoken about, and you can see how the words are pronounced or how the words are used, and to increase your vocabulary. But remember, if you are doing or practicing at home, these things you should do way in advance. You should not do this in the last 2 weeks of your preparation. So if you are going to do your IELTS exam later in the year, like in November, you can start doing these a few things slowly, right? And then obviously gear up more towards the end, towards nearer to your exam, start doing more intense work. This is just maybe a start, right? So start with the reading, start using subtitles, start reading a few Instagram stories, listen to different accents, record yourself, see how you sound as well with speaking, and have a conversation with someone who's a native speaker, and they can help you as well. Thanks.
Thank you. That was insightful. Next question for expert Rachel. How can one improve their listening?
Okay. All right. So again, keeping in mind the test structure, okay, with respect to listening, like I said, you will be listening to different accents. Okay. So first thing is, start listening to maybe podcasts or TV shows, or like Shamini said, watch some movies. As when you're doing that, make sure you have the subtitles on. All right. Listen to a lot of podcasts. All right. So get familiar with the accent that they are using. Okay. That's number one. The second thing is understand your test structure, understand what are the different conversations you would be listening to in all the four different parts. Okay. Now, another important factor apart from this is, learning the vocabulary that they use, getting familiar with the vocabulary that they use. Okay. Because maybe, you're good with your vocabulary, but the way they speak, it's slightly different from the way we speak. Like, say, for example, I'm giving you directions to a pharmacy. Okay. And if I'm a native English speaker, I would probably tell you, um, go around the corner, you'll find the pharmacy. Okay. Go around the corner, you'll find the pharmacy. Now, that is not a very familiar phrase that we use, especially in India. So if I had to give you directions being an Indian, I would say go straight and take right, and go straight and take left, right? So the way they express things or give directions is different. So while you are listening to audios or while you are practicing the test, not only get familiar with the accent, but also be careful or pay attention to the vocabulary phrases that they use, on a regular basis. Like even if it is a conversation between two people, two colleagues or friends, how are they expressing their feelings, or how are they, expressing, what they want to talk about? So that's one thing. The last thing I would like to tell you is listening takes a lot of practice, of course, but you also need to work on your concentration levels. Extremely important. See, what's happening here is you're constantly listening to audios starting from, minute 1 to minute 30, right? For 30 minutes, constantly you are listening to audios. So an average person, can pay attention for just about 20 minutes. After that, your mind starts wandering. Okay, so you have to learn to improve your concentration levels. Now, I know there are many ways you can improve your concentration levels. You could probably meditate, but I think the best way to do is to do a listening test every single day and do a complete listening test. Don't just do section one today, I'll do section two tomorrow, three the day after. That's not going to help you. It's just a 30-minute test. Dedicatedly sit every day for 30 minutes. Do the entire test at a stretch without being distracted. Okay. So what happens here is if you're doing it on a daily basis, you will obviously improve your concentration levels. All right. So yeah, you could work on that as well. And yes, there are many other ways that we could improve listening. When we get into the details of the exam, that's when I can actually help you out better. But I hope these tips help.
It really is helpful. Next question for expert Shamini. What is the validity of the test?
Okay, so the test is going to be valid for 2 years. So when you get your results, uh, give yourself 2 years and your test is valid.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the last question for expert Rachel. How many months should one dedicate to the preparation of IELTS?
Yes. So, like I said, keep about 6 to 8 weeks in hand. But again, I highly recommend that, you'll understand your current proficiency level. Okay. You can approach a good team like ours, to understand where you'll stand right now and how long you would need to prepare. That's very important. So take at least about 1 week, maybe 4 or 5 days to do your homework as to what the test structure is, where am I right now, what kind of help would I require. But on an average, yes, about 6 to 8 weeks is what I recommend.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you yeah,
Vanshika. Thank you for moderating the Q&A session.
thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, Shamini, for the wonderful insights that you've given to the learners of French tweets. And I hope these, meaningful insights will definitely impact their training sessions for IELTS with us. Thank you so much once again for your precious time today. And I have already asked the learners to connect with us so that they can avail your wonderful teaching, and they'll definitely score a very good band score. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Shamini. Thank you,
Thanks.
Doreen.
Bye.
Yes. Thank you, Vanshika.
Thank you, experts, for answering all the questions so deeply and insightfully. And we look forward to facilitating more batches and classes with you.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Looking
everyone.
forward. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, dear. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.